What's up, DAW Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the DAW. And in this week's episode, we have Ivan Koraliza, or better known as Ill Factor, who is also the big cheese, the big guy, the big Don, the big over at Beat Academy. Now, if you're not familiar with Ill Factor, I got his website up over here because his credentials, they just keep going. They're incredible. So he's worked on projects with Justin Timberlake, Gwen Stefani, Jason Derulo. Who the heck is that? Oh, that's Cloud9. Skylar Grey, Kevin Rudolph, He worked on Assassin's Creed? What? Kelly Rowland, Sia, Just Dance. He's done stuff for Just Dance. The Crew too. He's worked on that. He's had over 80,000 students with Beat Academy. He's been featured on stuff like Masterclass. Let's just, gently throw this in here. He's Grammy nominated, or he's won a Grammy. Has he won a Grammy? He's won a Grammy. What? I could go on and on about this guy. Okay, I've done a ton of research on him, and there's still things I'm finding out about him even after I've recorded the episode. One of the things that we're going to be talking about is not having your music wrapped up in your identity, being able to exist outside of your music so you can enjoy creating it, you can enjoy sending it off to other people, but if something happens, it doesn't go the way that you want it to, it doesn't get the reception that you want it to, it doesn't destroy you inside. We're going to go super deep into how you can have a firm foundation in your music creation process and your music career. How do you get a firm foundation? How are you not, destroyed when someone makes fun of you inside of the YouTube comments? I really needed this, by the way. This is very pertinent to me. We're gonna go super deep into topics like that. We're also gonna be talking about mentorships. Now, as you know, with DAW Nation and the courses that we provide and the YouTube tutorials, I mean, the whole concept of what we do here is with mentorship, right? Every tutorial you watch, every podcast you listen to, every course you've ever taken is a form of mentorship. Now, we're gonna be talking about much more personalized mentorship and what he's got going on over at Beat Academy. There's so much value in when there's somebody out there in the ethos that has experienced what you have experienced, that has already learned the things that you want to learn, and being able to connect with them and to leverage their knowledge and to learn from them so that your path is so much easier, it's so much more efficient, it's so much more enjoyable. So we're going to be going super deep into that today. And of course, as always, there is a free download down in the description. We love the free downloads. We got all of them. Anyways, down in the description, you can check that out. And if you like this episode, then you are going to love the Crywolf Masterclass. So in this episode of Behind the DAW, we're going to be going super deep into what I call the higher mind thing. So not so much the technical side or the business side, but the super deep emotional shadow work, philosophical work that needs to be done. And if you really resonate with that, the Crywolf Masterclass is totally up that alley. So that course talks about Crywolf's system of making 30 songs in 30 days. And the way he does that is by using his system of creativity, which is totally in alignment with what we're talking about today. So if you want to learn how to make 30 songs in 30 days in the most mentally healthy and authentic and true to yourself way of making music, then make sure to check out the Crywolf Masterclass over at dawnation.net/Crywolf Masterclass. Or there's a link in the description. You can always, it's a cute link. Anyways, with that being said, DAW Nation, thanks so much for coming through, and let's go behind the DAW with Ill Factor. I want to welcome you to another episode of Behind the DAW. Today, a little backstory. We recorded this episode 3 years ago. Some things got in the way, but I think for the better, because I think we're going to make an even better version today. And today we have Ivan. Okay, let's see if I say this right. Ivan Koraliza. Did I say it right?
Hey, come on now. You got it, bro. Yeah.
I got it, man. Dude, Ivan, he's such a good man. He has produced under the name Ill Factor. He's the head honcho over at Beat Academy. My guy, thank you so much for coming through. How you doing today?
Dude, I'm excited, man. I'm glad you reminded me that we had this call today. So thanks for keeping me accountable. I'm looking forward to this, man. Any chance I get to chime in and just chat about what I've been able to do over the years, it's great, man. So let's do this. I'm excited.
I am excited as well. I really look up to you, dude. And with that in mind, Ivan, would you be so kind as to share with DAW Nation, what is one of the worst decisions that you've made for your music career?
I think this has kind of loomed throughout many other decisions. So if we were to break it down like this would probably be at the very root of and manifesting in multiple different decisions throughout my career. So I've been producing music for almost 24 years as a living, professionally. I've been working with some of today's biggest artists, Justin Timberlake, Kygo, Gwen Stefani, Sia, and it's been nothing short of a blessing. But I think the reoccurring thing that has happened, especially at the very beginning, and I started off producing in my bedroom, just like a lot of people watching this. I started off with just a passion for music, loved it, and I knew that passion drove me to want to create my own music and share that music with the rest of the world. In that, I struggled with a lot of like identity crisis, right? Like, who am I? And so I'm going to get to answer that. And at the early stages of my career, of just making music, sharing it with people, I think the decision that kept echoing throughout all other decisions was placing my identity in my music. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that at the very foundation, my self-worth and my value was based on my performance. And the way it would manifest would mean that I would take personally all the rejection that came from pursuing a career in music. So when somebody didn't like something I made, it cut deep. And when somebody wouldn't get my song placed on a project, it was a rejection of who I was. And so that ultimately was at the very root of a lot of other decisions. And so being afraid of having people reject me, being afraid of what people might say, I wouldn't share music, or I wouldn't make I wouldn't make that connection with that person. I would be afraid of like, well, what if they don't like my music? What if they say I'm not good enough? So you can see that rooted issue, the very root of like having my identity in my music, was the root cause of a lot of things that ended up kind of just not necessarily like, yeah, it wouldn't harm me, but it really just, I would say, shied me away from opportunities that I probably would have, thrived in much more. But hey, I'm ultimately very grateful for where I landed, grateful to be where the careers led me. Still had plenty of opportunities to just connect with some amazing people in the industry and do what I've been so passionate about doing with my music. So ultimately, it has led me to here, and even starting my own business with Beat Academy to help others pursue their passion for producing music. So just to wrap this all up, the worst decision I've made, I know there's plenty of bad decisions I've made. There's contracts I should have never signed. There are things I said in a studio session I should have never said, stupid, idiotic things like that. Ran in the hall with scissors, should have never ran with scissors, right? Like there's all those dumb moves, but if I can go a little deeper and unpack the layers of that, I think at the very bottom, it was just a fear of rejection that would cause me to make decisions that ultimately weren't based in a mindset of how can I bring value to someone. It was like, it just made it very personal. Like, I don't, are they going to not like what I'm doing? Are they not going to like this? Am I not good enough? So there it is. Putting my identity in the music that I was making led me to make some decisions out of fear and scarcity.
Absolutely makes sense. And that was a beautiful answer. And I have 10 different ways that I want to ask the same question about that. And we'll get to that in just 1 second, Donation. And make sure to stay all the way to the end, because at the end of this episode, we're going to be asking Ivan the opposite to that question. What is the best decision that he made for his music career? The identity thing. This is something that it has been one of the biggest struggles of my life. Obviously, I'm not making music right now. I'm making Donation. And I absolutely struggle with what you're talking about, as well as all of Donation does. I absolutely know it's one of the biggest things that they bring up, that they are terrified to share their music with people. They're terrified to submit to labels. They're terrified to ask for collabs because of XYZ reason. They don't think their music is up to par. And because their music is not up to par, therefore they suck. Therefore they're terrible. Therefore they're worthless. Therefore they are not deserving of love or admiration. They are not artists because they're not at a certain level. And I believe, if I'm understanding correctly, a lot of that pain and a lot of that anxiety is wrapped up in wrapping their identity in the kind of very, I hate to say imperfect, but the imperfect art that they create. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, but it's also, and for me personally, my identity was wrapped in the outcome, right? So it's like, if someone just didn't like the song I was making, it was so easy to have it personal, to feel like a personal attack on me personally, because it was like, oh, then I must suck, right? So it was an immediate thing. And then we just don't view it in the subjective view that it should be in. This is art, and it's not meant for everyone to like it. This is just an expression. It's basically viewing the world through the lens you're viewing it, and then magnifying that message or that image to the rest of the world to see. Now, we're not supposed to, by compulsion, twist everybody's arm for them to like it. And yeah, if the masses like that, if you wrote a great killer melody, great song, you put that thing together, you wrote Yesterday by the Beatles. Okay, yeah, the majority of people are going to gravitate to. There's a difference between the formula and understanding and song structures that can have mass appeal. But there's also a difference when it's like, no, this needs to like work out. So it's that expectancy, it's the need and the desire for your soul to be satisfied by someone just liking the music you're making. Does that make sense? So that's where I'm getting at. It's like, man, if nobody's liking my music, I guess I'm worthless. That's the thing that can eat away at someone. So I'm kind of just directly, piercing that mindset. There's many seasons to that. Like when I first started making music in my bedroom, it sucked. Especially when I was trying to cut vocals on my own stuff. I sounded like a dying giraffe. I was discontent because I'm comparing myself to where the professionals and all these other people are at, or maybe even people around me were at. And I was like, man, I'm not there yet. Okay, well, that's just part of my journey, and that's just part of where I need to grow and work on. But it was so easy to fall into just, stagnant just because I just didn't have the confidence. I lacked the confidence with my music production skill set, and therefore I just wasn't liking what I'm doing. And what was robbing me of the joy of just loved making music. You know what? Let me break it down to like this. I got 4 kids, right? My youngest, so I've got 3 boys and a girl. She's the youngest. And I'll tell you, this is kind of like this notion that I tell a lot of my mentees in my mentorship group, this childlike faith. My young kid, like my youngest son, when he was about 6 or 7, he would just make beats or draw on something, and he could care less of like the product itself, but the joy of making it. That's why he would run up to me. He's like, Dad, look at this thing I made. Look at this thing I made. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So there's this childlike faith to the joy of just making the thing, making the art, making the beat, right? So my son would make, because I'll have Ableton on my computer at home. Of course, I got to raise my kids right? So I've got them on Ableton. I've got a little, launch pad, and they can kind of trigger loops and have fun with it. But he's not worried about like, hey, is the mix all right? Is there enough compression on the mix bus? He's not worried about that. He's like, Dad, look at what I made. And there was a joy in the making of it. And I think I've robbed myself of the joy of the making so many times because I'm putting so much pressure on the outcome. So putting all that pressure, that immense pressure on the outcome, I'm robbing the joy of the process. And here's this little kid who can care less about like if there's 12 streams or 12,000 streams. He's just like, man, look, isn't this cool? I made this. So I want to return back to that, right? The childlike faith of making, of just making something that we really just want to make.
The big pushback I know we're going to get, because first off, let me say, I agree with you. After doing this for so long, I know the ultimately empty path that you eventually fall on when you care so much about, when you go beyond the enjoyment of creating, you put so much stock in my creation only has value, or I only have value, or I only have enjoyment if other people find value and enjoyment in what I create, right? So I know that's ultimately dead works. That's ultimately, that's not going to provide anything fulfilling in the end. And I know the biggest pushback that we're going to get with this idea is, but wait, that's where a lot of my enjoyment comes from, is by, if I create in a vacuum, that's only like a portion of the enjoyment. I have to share it with other people in order to fulfill that enjoyment, right? To kind of take the enjoyment to the next level. And by contrast, if I share it with other people and they don't enjoy it, then I feel terrible. So what do I do with that? If part of the enjoyment is sharing it with other people, how do I live in a place where if someone else enjoys it, woohoo, good time, but if someone else doesn't enjoy it, it doesn't bring me down? Like, how do you live in that place, right?
It's a both and. It's a balance, man. Like, because it wasn't meant to be in this vacuum. It's not that, oh, okay, I enjoy making music and then walk away from it, right? it's also that I talk with so many people where they're like, man, I would just love if one person resonates with the song I wrote or with the track that I made, if it just brings a smile to somebody's face, mission accomplished. And very well so. That's awesome. So that is part of that component. But the identity piece we've been talking about is the difference between whether it gets rejected or accepted, you're still on a stable foundation. So like someone says, man, I love this tune. It's awesome, bro. Brought a smile to my face. Man, awesome. What a blessing, what a gift that I can, touch someone's heart with the music and the art that I'm making. Great. But then when you get like the other person is like, nah, I'm not feeling it. What? I'm gonna put you in a headlock and then like punch you in the stomach. Like, it's like, whoa, dude. It's like, okay. Like, I'm looking for the people that connect with it. And if it doesn't connect with you, that's cool. That's the stable foundation you can stand on when your identity is not rooted in that music. It's like someone having a YouTube channel like myself, and you'll have, 5,000 awesome comments, but you get that one comment that says, this video is basic. It's like, whoa. And then you're fixated on that one thing the whole time. So you'll overlook the connections that you're making, right? So it just gives you an assessment. It's like letting you know like what's really important. Because if you had 3 people who love your record, but that one person didn't, if you're fixated on the one person, then it really wasn't about your record connecting with people because you had more people connect with it than you didn't. It's something deeper that you're after. That's what I'm getting at.
So I'm speaking for myself. Hopefully I am vicariously speaking for DAW Nation through this point. I'm on board. I absolutely agree with you. I think that's the most not only mentally healthy way moving forward, but the most fulfilling way moving forward, right? Is to have that stable foundation to say, you know what, I'm going to create for creation's sake and I love it and I enjoy it. And if someone else enjoys it, woohoo, like good time. We're having great times. This is great. And if someone else doesn't like it, it's all good. Like it's not going to affect me. It's not going to keep me up. It's not going to keep me, or it's not going to change how I create and so on and so forth. The big the thing that you said is having confidence in yourself and having a stable foundation. That's how you can get to that point. So how does one get to that point? I don't know if this is a great time to share the Beat Academy's story or, where do you want to go with that?
There's 2 things. 'Cause I also want to push back on what I'm saying because I know somebody watching this or hearing this is going to be thinking there's effort that gets pushed into projecting the art you're making to the masses, right? So I get it. For the average person, who might be listening to this, like, okay, that's cute. Just be yourself or just love the music you're making. I get that. And it's not just to be a bumper sticker on the car and then you go on your merry way. When you're on that foundation, you are now in a good position to fuel the ambition to go and market the music you're making, do all the disciplinary work that you need to do to get that to the most people possible. You're going to be in a much more healthier and stable place to do that than if you're just going crazy with everybody. And if your identity is not in the music, you're just tossed to and fro. That's what I'm saying. You need that component first as a foundation so that when you do put in the work, it's like, all right, man, now it's time to get as many people on board with what I'm doing as possible. Great. Utilize the frameworks, utilize the meta ads, all the things, strategies that are there to use to get the most people connected with the music you're making. That's what I'm saying is that without the proper foundation, you're attaching yourself to frameworks, you're attaching yourself to strategies, and then you're like, oh, they got like 12,000 monthly listeners. You're starting to realize where the real value is, that it doesn't become stream numbers, it becomes with connection. That's what I'm getting at. Without that foundation, you're tossed back and forth. And so to answer your question, well, what are the ways to help level up that conviction? How do you gain confidence? Well, one of the things I've noticed throughout the years of working with some killers in this industry is that the difference between a professional, whether it's like Jimmy Douglas, Chris Lord-Alge, Rehab, or Tiesto, the difference between the pros and amateurs is that the pros have confidence in their creative decisions. That's the biggest difference. And how did they do that? Well, they've gone the years through the ups and downs that led them to be more confident with their creative decisions. That's why when you go to a professional, it's like, well, what EQ should I use to get that snare? It's like, I don't care. I use this one because it does what I want it to do. And they're like, well, that's not what YouTube told me. I was like, well, that's the thing. Like, I've been doing this for a while and I'm more confident with this. And so my workflow, my approach to getting the music I want out there is like tiki, tiki, tiki. It's not unorthodox, and it probably goes against everything you're hearing on YouTube, but this is why I'm confident with it. And when you pull the veil back on a lot of these pros, you're like, oh, wow. That's really weird. I never thought about doing it that way. And okay, you leave all the technical, pragmatic stuff at the door, and you lean more towards how do you build confidence with your creative decisions. And so how do you do that? Well, the way that, and I think this is going to crack the door open to the next question, like what was the best decision in my career? I decided to double down and find someone that can mentor me, find someone that can pour into me, not just useless information, although the information was very useful, but the wisdom that goes behind all the years' experience. Because mentorship isn't just telling you what EQ to put on the snare drum. It's, man, how do you deal with life-work balance? How do you deal with the ups and downs, the emotional ups and downs of getting rejected, of getting accepted, knowing the right steps to take to actually achieve success with your music, passion, and goals, right? That's what the role of a mentor does. And so when I got involved with finding someone like Jimmy Douglas was for me, who's a legendary veteran in the space, he took me under his wing, and that's where things just dramatically changed. It was just like huge pivotal moment in my career. So you gain confidence by hanging around with those who have that confidence, because then it overflows and meets the needs that you have with your music. And then another thing too is like without having to do that, it'll take a while, but you start learning, you start gaining more of that confidence when you can remove the identity, when you can go back to that childlike faith. So there's that thing. It's like, if I can love the process, I gain more and more confident with what I love doing. Therefore, hey, I just love the way it sounds. And then you might open someone's Ableton or session and be like, dude, why do you have 3 overdrive plugins? And you're not even like killing anything behind 80 hertz below. There's no like high pass filter and any of this stuff. What are you doing? This is so wrong. Is it though? Because it got him the results he wanted. He or she loves the outcome of that. So who's to say it's wrong? That's what I'm talking about. It's not getting hung up on the technical stuff, but really enjoying the end result. And at the end of the day, the person tapping in on the other side of the laptop or phone doesn't even freaking care. It's just like, I don't care how you got to the end of the race. You got there. Did I even answer your question? I don't know I don't know where I ended up.
Absolutely, you did. Yeah, because the main question that I asked is, how does someone get to a stable foundation? And ultimately, the answer, the quickest, most efficient way to get there is to have a mentor. You need someone, whatever that mentor may be, or whoever that mentor may be, but it's someone that has already achieved the goals, that knows the ways, that has said, that has walked through the shadow of the valley of death and said, absolutely stay away from that cavern over there. But by the way, that tree has the best berries in the valley. How does this apply to Beat Academy? Because this is how you and I had this conversation before we started recording, and I want Daw Nation to hear this story in real time of how you came. I know that obviously you've come to this conclusion many different times in many different ways, obviously with the ill factor, but I'm Daw Nation, we're all here, we're all music producers, singers, songwriters, so on and so forth. They're aware of Beat Academy. Beat Academy is no small cheese in the cheese factory, and so I think this would be fantastic for them to hear. How does this, what we are talking about right now, apply to Beat Academy? Would you be okay with sharing that?
Yeah. So I've been producing full-time for a living professionally with major recording artists, usually from major label artists. And even on the EDM side too, done stuff with Kygo and with Rehab. I come across a new season of my life, right? I've been in the studio with Timbaland. I've been, that was like, I was a young buck then. And then I got married, life happens. Children started to appear in my life. And there was a different shift in mindset and priority, right? For me, it was a different season of my life in which, hey, I want to dedicate and invest in that. And so there became another struggle. How do I balance this, having a family, having a marriage, and not just something, not a peg I hang something on, but I want a nice, healthy marriage. How do I balance that with this type of work? How do I do that? And man, that is still a lesson I'm learning and growing in. There are some cracks that still need to be repaired there. But in that then sprung this new desire to teach. And from that transition into that season, I was like, man, as much as I love producing, working with artists, I also love teaching people the skill set that I've had a passion for. And so that was the origin of BD Academy. How do I create a platform that allows me to do that, pour into others, teach? And so the most convenient way at the time, like 7 years ago, was let me just synthesize and crystallize all that I've known into courses, into information, and then I'll make it readily available for those who need that next step. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just in the past 6 or 7 years of doing that and creating a platform for that, I come across thousands and thousands upon people who, what they have in common is the passion to pursue creating their own music, but also a lot of the hurdles and struggles and pains that they're experiencing, right? Not being able to finish tracks, not feeling confident, not knowing what next steps to take, not being able to know, there's a lot of, I don't know what I don't know. And so there was a lot of those nuances that I just couldn't meet them where they were at an individual basis, right? And so throughout all the years of running BD Academy, and I was grateful to be able to do it, I just noticed, man, like what is the lever that I can pull that would really cause the biggest impact, the most transformation in the shortest amount of time? And I look back in my life, I go, well, that was mentorship. That's when somebody believed in me, came alongside me, saw my blind spots, knew where I wanted to go, and elevated me to a place that allowed me to have confidence in myself, to give me the clarity I needed to produce the music I was proud of. And real world scenarios where I can actually start making money and a living off of the music I was creating. So I decided, well, if that's what happened for me, let me provide that for others. So I transitioned into just like, hey, you know what? The courses are there. And for anybody who's not ready to step into a very serious commitment and experience accelerated growth with mentorship, just have access to my courses for free. And I'm just going to double down on mentorship. That was it. So I made that decision, which is a radical decision last year. And I'm still navigating that. What does it look like to pragmatically live that out? And everybody's watching me build my airplane as I fly it. So I'm not perfect. I don't have all the kinks worked out yet. But I do know that proximity, coming alongside someone, because information is readily available, right? We can YouTube anything. We can AI anything right now. Chat, like, how do I get this compressor to work? But wisdom is golden. Wisdom isn't so readily available. So I just want to be able to provide from my 24 years of experience, and not just, that's the EQ you put on your snare drum. No, like all facets of my life. The running a business, the producing for a living, the having kids, all that is being poured into that. So I think what's been taking place this past couple of years with the guys and girls who stepped into this mentorship program that I'm providing, nothing short of transformational. And that excites me. So yeah, man, that's been the complete, roller coaster that I've been on with BD Academy. It's allowed me the platform to discover, how can I help those who want to produce with purpose.
So the more I think about mentorship, so I think about my own life, I think about what you're saying, I think about what I have observed and what I have learned from other people with what they're going through. And I absolutely agree with what you're saying. It doesn't matter if we're talking about music production. It doesn't matter if we're talking about health or how to fix your car or how to have a better marriage or how to grow a sixth finger. I don't know if there's a mentor for that. The more I think about it, the more I'm starting to see that is absolutely true, though, because if you think about it, when someone is struggling inside of their Ableton project, their Logic project, they're inside of their DAW, and they can't figure something out, how do I bring up the automation lanes? Or how do I duplicate this clip or whatever it is? They seek a mentor. That mentor is usually in the form of YouTube, right? They go and they find someone that has already figured it out so that they can teach them, right? When someone buys a course, that's kind of like the next step of YouTube or the next step of mentorship, if you will, because it's a pre-recorded form of mentorship, right? Where someone is usually describing some type of system that they made or some kind of process that they've discovered, some kind of proprietary thing. And so that's another form of mentorship. But if we get to what you're talking about, which is kind of like the tippity top of the mentorship pyramid, it's the one-on-one. It's the you as the mentee, you are bearing your soul. here is all of my flaws. Here are my concerns. Here are my fears. Here are my blind spots. And then the mentor in real time is looking at them and saying, this, you thought this was your big thing, but it's actually not. It's actually this. This is actually what's killing you inside. Am I getting that right?
You're sharp, bro. You're a ninja. I think to kind of just like summarize that, it's like all the digital ways to consume information, they really lay out the how. This is how you do this. But proximity unpacks the why. This is why you're doing it. And I think that's very important because in proximity, when you're close to someone, whether it's in real time or, you know, like, hey, mentor, I can help unpack, well, why are you making that decision? Can I help you identify that? Like, why do you keep you've brought me this track and I'm seeing a pattern here. You keep telling me it's the vocals. You know, I don't like my vocals. Well, why? Why don't you like the way your vocals sound? And they think, well, I've gone through the hows. I know how to do this, but I've never taken the time or someone to help me extract the why. And most of the time, and this is exactly what happened. There was a student of mine in my mentorship program who came and was like, well, I don't know, the vocals sound really weird. And what's wrong with my EQ? Like, how can I EQ this? And I go, oh, slow down. Like, I don't think this is an EQ problem. And so with a little bit of prodding and just asking and getting to the why, we unpack something way deeper that this person never liked their vocals because they were told growing up that they had never had someone believe in them growing up. And so they never believed any of the music they were making was good enough. I was like, whoa. It doesn't always have to go that deep, but we went there. And then I challenged that person, go ahead and bypass your whole channel strip, your whole vocal channel strip. We bypassed all the plugins and realized, do you like the way it sounds? I said, yeah, I really love the way it sounds without anything on there. So it wasn't an EQ problem. It was right down to like, maybe it was a melody problem. Like it was something a lot easier to just like get to. And then the EQ stuff just fell right into place. And again, it can sound like, well, YouTube is bad. No, like courses are great. Like if anything, courses give you a step-by-step, curated, laid out pathway to understand and accomplish the how. But there are some nuances in that between the modules, like module 1 and module 2, there's something between there that I'm having a hard time wrestling with. And I just want to meet them where they're at. It's also important to realize you don't need sometimes the person with the huge marquee value, right? Well, I got to find a pro who's been doing this for 85 years. You can also just tap into someone who's maybe just 2 or 3 steps ahead of you.
I love what you're saying, and I love analogies. And some people get mad at me for my analogies. Well, guess what? This is my podcast. I'm going to go with an analogy. If we move this into another area with applying with what you're saying, I love the analogy of building a house because I recently bought a house, and so I know what goes into all that. And so, if I'm understanding you correctly, if we use the analogy of building the house, someone's coming to you. Let's say that we got the general contractor, Ill Factor Contracting, best real estate company in the nation, and I come to you and I say, I am so displeased. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to build my kitchen. And you're saying, okay, whoa. So what's going on? Like, why not? What's going on? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I need this cabinet here, and I need this type of stone for my table. And you're like, hold on. Let's just talk this through. Why? It's like, well, the reason why is because there's so much water running through my house. There's so much water through my house. I have to have the cabinet up there. I have to have the stone thing over here. And you're like, why? Wait a second. Hold on. Why is there so much water running through your house, my guy? And it's like, well, because I live in a lake. I live in a lake, my dude. And you're like, why are you in the lake? Because my family's in a lake. My family has lived in this lake. I have to live in this lake. They say if I don't live in this lake, then I'm not going to be a part of the family. And you're like, well, my guy, if you move out of the lake, if you go into the shore, you're even down the road, even better. You get some rock, build on the rock, not a sandy foundation.
Yeah, you took this a whole nother. Yeah, I mean that's essentially it, right? It's like, why? What's the issue when the issue is not the issue?
Ivan, this makes so much sense. It's resonating with me. All the logical receptors in my brain are firing. I'm like, yes, this sounds like pure truth that I'm hearing, and at the same time, I can see that this is hard to see in oneself. I can tell that even though I agree with you, it's kind of hard to tell when I haven't gotten down to that like bedrock of of what's actually going on. And I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of people in DAW Nation as well. So is ultimately the answer, if you can't get down to the bedrock yourself, is that you need some form of mentorship in a variety of ways to help you get down to that bedrock to figure out actually what you need to do? Does that make sense?
Well, go back to that statement you made earlier when somebody doesn't find full pleasure of just making music in a vacuum. It's part of this continuous journey where it connects with others. I think we are created for relationships. We're created for community. We're created to not just be, solitude in confinement. In if anything, the crazy pandemic showed us that, like, how crazy that was. Like, I need to be outside. I need to commute. I need to connect with somebody. So I think we're just made to connect. And so there is this concept of iron sharpening iron, the ability of having someone just kind of view some of those blind spots. And I think we're just wired, we're hardwired that way to really build community, to lean into that, to just say, I could use someone to help me get there. And in one form or another, a YouTube channel does that. And, it's like understanding and connecting with others that are able to resonate with where you're at, what you're doing. What is the root cause of me not being able to finish my records? The good of the current age we're in, especially with AI and all this stuff, is that information is so readily available. It's becoming cheaper and cheaper, right? It's not as valued as much because it's so easy to access. But because of the nature of the ease of access to that information, we can subtly feel that the outcome of that information should result in just as easy of an outcome. Because I can YouTube how does Skrillex make that crazy bass and then do it. I was like, well, I should have the same impact as Skrillex. I should have the same, I should be at the same state. And then what happens with that disconnect is there's discontentment. So I know we're getting like really foo-foo stuff. Look, there's a balance here too. There is such need for the pragmatic. There is a purpose for that specific EQ and that, modulating synth. There are some really cool stuff in there because if you don't know how to acquire that or do that or use those tools, you don't get to grow in articulating your music vision better. If you've only got a 3-channel EQ, you're missing a lot of bands that you can tweak. So what I'm getting at here, though, this is the hard stuff that overflows into the pragmatic. Having communal, that relational aspect is so needed. And like I said, it can really help you identify the ways that you can grow in confidence in making your music. So if you don't have it, it will just probably take a lot longer, is where I'm getting at, right? I tell people all the time who want to, apply for my mentorship, it's like, well, I can't do it right now, and I go, look, eventually you'll get there, it'll be maybe 2 years, 5 years, 7, I don't know, but you do it enough, you'll get there. But if you're looking to the kill shot, if you're looking like, man, not only do I want to get there quicker, I just want to be able to work smarter, not harder. How do I lay a good foundation so that I know how? It's like I really want to help people not just on what to learn, but how to learn. So you're not dependent on Google Maps. You can actually read a compass. You can read a map, and you actually know where you want to go yourself.
So to really drive this point home, what I would love, and I think what DAW Nation would love, is a real-time example. And either that can be, you bringing up an example of if you have a really great story from a student, or we could do it with me in real time. If we want to, we could apply some of these principles right now with me, or you can share a personal story about you.
Let's go with you. Let's just do it raw. Like, well, what are you walking through, man?
I can start just word vomiting and tell you what I'm walking through right now. Is there usual questions that you ask someone to kind of like extract those answers out, or what do you think?
I think 90% of the power just comes from listening. Being a good listener is just going to allow you to understand and ask the right questions. So, yeah, man, what's on your mind?
If I'm being real, I feel like there is a lot of shame that I feel towards DAW Nation, in that And I feel like it's getting in the way. I feel like it's really getting in the way. If I'm being compassionate with myself, if I'm putting it in a very optimistic light, I've made small business problems. I've made small business choices, right? I didn't know how to scale. Clearly we recorded an episode 3 years ago, never came out. Here we are recording a second time. I kind of feel like a failure. I had a good thing going. I have my reasons for, things happening and me needing to take a step back and reframe and stuff like that. But there is a lot of I don't know what to say, like icky feelings with that. There's a lot of baggage that I'm feeling with that I feel like it's keeping me from feeling confident and feeling like, oh, it's okay. It's cool. You learn, you made a mistake. Let's just move forward. So what about that? Do you think that's something worth talking about?
Do you think it's worth talking about?
I do.
Okay, there you go. This is going to have an impact on the culture you create for DAW Nation. And if you're not healthy, and if you're running around breaking down with this imposter syndrome, you're only going to be operating from a place where what's overflowing from you is just, isn't refreshing water. It's water that's poisoned with doubt, with insecurities. And what ends up happening is you make decisions on your business based on frantic energy that just like, okay, what's that person want? Okay, I'll just make that, right? And what's this? It's like, okay, what's the culture you're setting for the way that you're standing in DAW Nation will echo and reflect towards everyone else in there. Like if you're not healthy and if you're doubting the whole thing, how do you think everybody else is going to receive that?
There's the logical side of my brain. Again, like my logical feelers are absolutely like check. Absolutely. I agree with you. What does one do now with that information?
Well, dude, let me ask you this question. What do you want to do?
I don't want to feel that way.
But this is more than just telling you to stop feeling that way. Like break it down to the nuts and bolts. And this could be tricky because it could be easily positioned as like, not just, what's the lifestyle choice you want? And like what does a dream week look like for you, right? What does a dream month look like for you? And how is DAW Nation a part of that? You don't need to feel the pressure to answer this right away, but these are the things that you should probably sit down and just chew on. You can park there, but if you're like, bro, honestly, this is what a dream month would look like. If DAW Nation was bringing X amount, if it was just humming this way, if it was doing X, Y, and Z, extrapolate it from that. Like, what do you want to do? There needs to be alignment there with the very foundation of the business, which is why I literally let go of my whole team, my staff. It's like, this is where I'm going. I'm going to go with mentorship. All the things that we were doing to hold up the spinning plates, I'm going to shut that down because it's not in alignment.
To provide a really good answer, I think I really need to think about that because I think if I'm guessing, if I'm theorizing, especially in the context of the conversation that we're having, I think I'm still several layers too high to getting down to the core. Meaning, for example, I feel shame about how things have played out with DAW Nation in the last couple of years. I think several layers down means, but why do you feel that shame? And then whatever the answer is, but why do you feel that? That's what I feel like I need to go down a few more levels with that.
The real question was asked, why do you feel that shame? Where do you think that shame stems from? Here's how we can blindly bypass that. We can say, well, I can stay frantic, I can stay busy. Maybe I could do another podcast episode. I put out another course. I'll do all these things because they keep me numb and busy from actually answering the one question that would solve all the questions. So if the shame thing is like, well, hey, I know as an entrepreneur's business, I feel shame. What do you feel shame? Well, that my business hasn't actually reached the full potential that others have told me it can, or that I believe it can. And therefore I feel ashamed that I haven't tapped into that potential. That's something I struggled with. Like, man, I know that Beat Academy could be here. And I see all these other companies, Mix with the Masters, Pyramid. I know these guys personally. Mastering.com. Like I know the guys. We talk regularly. And when I hear the numbers, they're making, man, why am I not there? I feel shamed because I'm discontent. Why am I discontent? Right? That now you're starting to get to the real crux of it. And if you can meet the need that's really at the core of this, then your business can actually be aligned with the real intention. And when your business is aligned, you don't need to sell 300 courses this month. You see where I'm getting at? Like the busy, frantic work happens in, we didn't have enough course sales this week. We didn't have enough course sales this month. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but is that aligned with what it is that you really want? And the shame comes from not answering that, not getting to the heart of it. It's like, man, what is it that I really want? And I feel ashamed that I'm not there. I'm not thinking about it. And so I'll stay busy. I'll stay really productive. I'll just do a bunch of episodes. I'll just do this. I'll do. And the shame doubles down because you look back the past year, bro, I've been doing. I got nothing to show for it. That's where the shame really piles on. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Absolutely, it does. In fact, there's the part of me, like I said, the very logical part of me and the emotional part of me actually is saying this is checking out. It's eerie how many things that you said absolutely apply to what I've been living through and what I've been experiencing. And you have given me so much to think about. And my knee-jerk reaction of what is being said right now is I have to spend some really serious time in front of my whiteboard mapping out the thoughts of why do I feel this way, and I guess doing the self work in order to make the mentor work more rich. Is that an appropriate thing to do?
Well, absolutely, man. Because here's the opposite end of that, right? Then you tap into what's called the synthetic economy. You catch drift of marketers marketing to marketers marketing marketers. And you catch drifts of people like, do this. So there's a lot of noise. And without doing the inner work, one is tempted to see the noise and buy into the neon lights that say, you can run a business or you can structure it like this. You can do all these things. So get the right email copy, get this. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I need to achieve what I think is the success I'm going for. And then what happens is you and I will get caught into the hamster wheel of that. Buy this, do another course, do another thing, do a webinar, do all these things. And it's like, oh, okay, we're hung up and hung out on, strung out on strategies. And thinking frameworks is the salvation. But no, what you have to do is really tap in. It's like, well, what do I want to do? And where's the value in what I'm doing? And you should actually just sit down next to your wife and be like, what do I want to do? Because she'll know. That's that communal component, right? She'll draw out of those blind spots because you're already like this. Like, I think I want to do this. No, man, tap into somebody who knows you. It's like, hey, and then be faithful with little so you can be faithful with much. Just find like one or a small group of people that you can just pour into that are willing to commit and pay you for, whether it's a course creation or something, and double down and say, where's the real value at? Because that true value is what I take to the marketplace. Because then it's just like you're caught in the noise. Oh, somebody told me if I really want to make, if I want a 50K a month this year, I have to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to do that. Say, well, who told you that that's what you should be doing, Wyatt?
This is great, man. And I certainly hope that by me saying this next comment, it doesn't seem like a deflection, because it's not. It's me trying to apply it to DAW Nation, right? I really hope that DAW Nation just heard what we said and kind of extracted out the name Wyatt for their name and the name DAW Nation for their brand. Because yes, obviously that was extremely valuable for me, but really the pure value comes from whoever is listening and applying it to themselves and being like, I really hope there's a lot of people walking away from this conversation and then being like, I'm going to go do what Wyatt's going to go do. I'm going to go sit down with my wife, my best friend, ChatGPT, whoever, your mom, your dad, whoever you trust, and kind of have that, kind of have like a shadow work session where you're extracting out that information and allowing that person to push back and be like, are you sure we're at bedrock right now? Are you sure? I feel like we're still a few layers up, and to help them get down all that way. Is that right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, everybody listening probably they just heard how the sausage is being made. It's a little meta, right? Like we're talking about how you are running your business and they're part of the, you're right? Get that. And they're like, okay, that might be great for entrepreneurs and people running online education spaces. But I'm a musician. I'm trying to produce music. In what way does that reflect to me? What's the pragmatic approach for me? So let's get a little nuts and bolts here for that person who's listening and be like, that's cool for you guys, but I'm here just making beats in my bedroom. How does that matter? Well, I think when you start to realize the closer you can be with finding out the intention, right? So if you're anchored to your intention, man, my intention is just to make people happy. I just want people to like bounce. I want like clubs and arenas to just go crazy when when this tune comes on the set. Okay, so that's your intention. What it does is it gives you clarity on the path, and it fuzzes and blurs out all the distraction stuff. So if that's the case, man, don't worry about the streams. Just connect with DJs and the right people who will get your song. You see what I'm saying? It just makes it a little bit more focused. It really ties into the alignment that you need. For a lot of the average DJ / producer, someone making music, it really just comes down to, everybody tells me this thing: I want to make a living off my music. I want to make a living. I want to be able to live off the music I create. Is that really what you want? Because when I give you the cold hard strategy, well, then you got to make K-pop, do this, and then here's the strategy. Like, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, now there's conflicting desires. If you just want to make money off of the music, there is a cold vending machine strategic way to do that you might not like. Do this kind of music because it's going to get sync play. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay. So what do you really want? I want to make a living off of the music I'm making. Well, then that's a whole, you see where I'm getting at here? It's like, why then? Well, what's going on? And so I don't promise anybody who steps into my mentorship, hey, you're going to get a placement, you're going to get millions of streams, you're going to get all this. I just promise that I show up right next to them 1,000%, because I am in no control of that. And anybody pitching or selling that is selling a bill of goods. But I can definitely help them become more confident with their creative decisions, which will naturally overflow into them getting the placements, the sync opportunities, the gigs. That's what happens naturally when you're fully confident with the music you love making.
Ivan, you have given us so much to think about and so much wonderful things to think about. I hope DAW Nation is walking away from listening to this and they're hyped. They're ready. They realize the value in what we're talking about. They're excited to go sit out on their porch or go find a park or sit in the living room with a loved one and just hash this out to make themselves, have that better foundation. I want them to walk away from listening to this and applying what we're talking about and feel revitalized. They're like, oh my gosh, this looming weight that's been there in the background can now be lifted, at least to some degree, right? And so with that, we're going to get into how, if they are extremely interested in your mentorship, how we're going to get into that, or how they can get into that. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Before we get there, before we talk about that and give them the bridge over to Beat Academy, let's fulfill our promise to DAW Nation. And would you be so kind as to answer, what is one of the best decisions that you have made for your music career?
Yeah, shameless. It's them finding a mentor. That was it. Right? It was like, I was paving the road to that. And it seriously was. And I'm not trying to do this selfish plug. Look, if you really want it, you can jump over the fence and climb on board. I'm looking for the right people to work with anyways. And people who are that committed and serious about taking that next step forward, they're going to get the value from it the most. My greatest decision was just finding someone, hey, would you be willing to come alongside me, point out my blind spots, help me understand how this whole thing works? Yeah, that was the best decision. Honestly, I have my whole career, the foundation, the pivotal moment for my career was based on, I need somebody to help me navigate through life with this. And that person was there. And was that person perfect? No. No one is. And by far, they had cracks and ups and downs as well. And for every season of life, you're going to come across new people who can pour into you there. So that was the best decision ever. And not just to find somebody. Here's another component that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people say, go find a mentor. There's two sides of that coin. Yes, you can find somebody to pour into, and not everybody who can explain or has at a higher, echelon of making music is a good mentor. Just because they're there doesn't make them good. But there also needs to be the humility to be teachable. You need to be clay that's not hardened. You need to be clay that can be moldable. Because it's one thing to find here's the problem I've seen from a lot of people. I found a mentor and I want them to mentor me the way I want to be mentored. Well, wrong. You need to approach them with the humility saying, hey, I'm empty, pour into me. What do you got? And I'm willing to apply, listen, and be molded, right? That's the power combination. It's not just finding somebody who can give you the leg up and show you all the things, and then you use them up, you suck them dry, and then move on to the next person. No, it's just being able to be like, man, what are the ups and downs that I can learn from them, and how can I be shaped by them, and then how do I take that and then pour into someone else? Because that's ultimately the thing that's going to help me take that next step forward.
Beautiful answer, dude. Thank you so much. So if DAW Nation, I got 2 questions, okay? So the first question, very quick question. First question is, if there are members in DAW Nation, they've never been more convinced in their entire life of the concept of mentorship, and they're looking at you, they see stars flying out of you when they see you, and I want you to be my mentor more than anything. How would they go about that? What does the process look like for that?
There's an application, and if there's questions or something, you guys, let's just jump on a call and see if it's the right fit for you. And so the way that can happen is just apply for it. You can do that at beatacademy.com/mentorship, right? So beatacademy.com/mentorship has all the details about how it works, what's included. There's even a once a year, I grab all the mentees and we fly down to Miami, Florida. We have just an in-person retreat, it was phenomenal. I mean, we did that a month ago. It was just life changing. So if this resonates with you, apply. And we'll get on a call and see if it's what the right steps are for you, and then we'll take it from there.
That's so good. And DAW Nation, I'm here right now. Go to beatacademy.com, or you can do the /mentorship, or you can just go to beatacademy.com. There's a big thing up at the top that says get personal mentorship. You click that, and the funnel side of me is already getting giddy because I'm looking at this. I'm like, yes, he's doing the right thing. He's got the things in the right places, and the words are good, and there's check marks, and there's pictures, and this is so good. Anyways, right over there, DAW Nation, make sure to check that out. And Ivan, the final question that I have for you before we end is there anyone, now that you've been on DAW Nation and Behind the DAW, and hopefully you've had a good time, and is there anyone that you want to see come on the show that we can extract wisdom from, that you would really find value out of?
Dude, you guys should reach out to BT. I know you have connections with him through All 5. Just get BT on here. He's such a super brilliant guy, a cool guy. I've got to know him because he's such a wizard technically, and he's a Don. He's gone through the many different seasons of EDM and music production. I mean, he was a means of inspiration for me. Yeah, man. And the AU5 is freaking brilliant too. The guys, they're like, you got some mad scientists behind the veil. You guys, like, I'm here working with like pop artists, and I do some EDM production too. I started off producing drum and bass, but I was like, man, I ain't got time to be running OTT and connecting NASA with my toaster oven the way these guys do, but I can definitely appreciate it. So you got some killers in your space, man.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. Is there any final words that you want to say before we wrap up?
I think we covered so much. So thank you guys for your time. I know we value your time. You could be listening and checking into so many other things. So just grateful that you're giving Wyatt and myself some attention.
You have a free download in the description that you have not grabbed yet. Go grab it. Grab it hard.
What did he say?
And also make sure to go check out the Cryo Masterclass. I noticed you haven't checked it out yet. It's down in the description. And a huge big thanks to Ill Factor. Make sure to go check out Beat Academy. You're going to love it. DAW Nation, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you on next week's episode.